You know what makes me instantly angry? When somebody doesn't realize that the traffic light is turned green because they're stuck on their phone. Or when I take the day off work to sign for a delivery only for it to not turn up. Or, and this one really gets me bad, 8 minutes after your flight was supposed to depart, flight delayed. Don't get me wrong, I'm not mad about the flight being delayed. But the airport definitely knew at least 8 minutes ago that it was going to be late, so why not just tell us? Well, what if I said there was a way to instantly and genuinely improve your mood? And not only that, the more you use this technique, the better it actually gets. Would you be interested? Of course you would. If you're new here, my name is Shane, I'm a mechanical engineer, and I just love helping people make their lives even happier than they ever thought possible. Let's get into it. The technique I'm talking about is actually called cognitive reframing, and while that sounds complicated, it actually is really simple. All we're going to do is take these negative emotions or situations or experiences and reframe how we're thinking about them in our head so that they become something a lot more positive. This is much easier to talk through using a worked example. So let's say you're getting angry in your car because the person in front of you is always slow to move forward. You're sitting in traffic and you can see the cars ahead moving forward, but they are just stuck, either looking at their phone or off in another world. The first thing that we need to do when we feel these negative emotions starting to build is really to try and understand what specific emotions we're feeling. Is it stress because we're going to be late for somebody who we made a commitment to? Or is it anger because this person in front of us just isn't taking their driving responsibilities seriously? Because once you know what emotion you're feeling, you can start asking yourself what actions that this other person has done which have contributed to it developing. In this example, chances are they're probably just stuck to their phone, and so that's super annoying. And so me, personally, I would probably get angry. But unless I'm going to get out of my own car, walk up and actually look in their window, that's an assumption. I don't know that they're on their phone, and I'm making an assumption that they are, and that's why they're not noticing the cars in front of us move forward. And so because there's a number of assumptions that I'm making on behalf of them, I now have a little bit of artistic license to lie to myself to make myself feel better. Maybe they're distracted because they're on the way home from the hospital after saying goodbye to a really good friend. Or maybe it's their first drive after having a major car crash a couple of months ago and they're on the verge of having a panic attack. Are these potential reasons a little bit far-fetched? Of course they are. And what's more likely is my initial assumption of them just being stuck on Instagram on their phone is probably the real one. But it's not the only possibility, and human nature is that we will pick and default to the option that makes us the most angry. And now all I'm doing is assuming that this person in front of me is an idiot and all they're doing is getting in my way. Is it any wonder I'm getting angry if I'm thinking like that? This is the benefit of cognitive reframing. By telling yourself a different story, even if it is untrue, you're making yourself feel better. One way to take this process and really squeeze the juice out of it is to also do something called sub-vocalization. Essentially, all you're doing is talking to yourself out loud. In this example where there's somebody sitting in front of me and I'm telling myself that they're on the way home from the hospital, I don't just say that in my head. I actually say it out loud. Wow, this person must be having a super shitty day on the way back from the hospital. I'm going to give them a little bit more breathing room just so that they're not any more stressed out. If you do decide to do sub-vocalization, one thing to keep in mind is that you don't actually need to win the conversation. Instead, saying it out loud is tricking your subconscious brain into actually believing that it's true. So while you may not believe what you're saying, the actual act of saying it out loud means your subconscious mind does think it's true. The more you do this, the more likely it will become your default response. It's the exact same thing as seeing 11:11 on the clock or always seeing black cars when you drive to work. Once you realize it's something that you're spotting, you just naturally start to spot it more and more and more and more. You'll end up in a situation which historically would have made you angry or upset or sad, and before you know it, you've already reframed it in your head. You've sub-vocalized what you want to think instead, and you're sitting there happy as a pig in shit. All of a sudden, you'll realize that this is just your default way of thinking. But what are your thoughts? I'd really love to know what you think, so let me know down in the comments below. But that's this week's video, and I will talk to you in the next one. Peace!